Their primary ingredient increased dramatically as more and more blacksmiths were produced. There were now 17 bronze ores from one iron ore. It's currently far more costly. This trend would even cause some of them to go out of business. Adventurers' complaints about the game were becoming more frequent. They found this to be too realistic. Why not mine the ores themselves? Some of them reasoned. However, they quickly dismissed the notion as being too much work. To begin with, it took 2 hours to get from the city to the mines. Then the challenge of actually obtaining the ores came next. Their equipment may even malfunction occasionally. This child was told by these more seasoned players that it would be best to just concentrate on repairing their weapons in order to increase their mining efficiency. It was just not profitable to mine in the back of their mines. For one person who knows, however, this stereotype was not true, and he was still working hard to drill the sheet out of this mining location at the moment. In a brief amount of time, our hero had amassed a sizable iron ore collection. He even occasionally found rare ores similar to the silver ones. He was already at a rank in mining. This rank boost gave him a 10% increase in stamina and increased his chances of finding rarer materials. After all of this intense mining, Dex was now exhausted. All of the materials he took away from this session were these: a massive 1024 iron ores in addition to a few extra rare materials. Considering that he used a lot of plausibility points to obtain the drill, he felt that this was well worth the investment. Satan then gave his master another greeting. After all this time, they have broken up. This well-known feeling that his master would want more from him than just a drill. He channeled his magic once more and was ready to trade more plausibility points for another item. And this item is it. This one was dubbed the Darkness's Tears. The user has to be at least level 221st to use it, and it increases the bearer's darkness infinitely. It may aid Dex in spotting unseen foes and has 2 unique abilities as well. However, our hero turned down this proposal. He is certain that he is in no need of anything at this time. He went on to explain why he didn't really need this item. Because of its level requirement, this overpowered item won't even be purchased, and it will make the game extremely boring. This will also prompt others to look into his identity, leading them to perhaps discover the truth about who he was. Satan requested that his teacher stop elaborating because he now understood. Beyond these matters, Dex inquired of Satan, "Where have you been all this time?" Our hero was curious because this guy already had a devilish expression on his face. To keep things exciting and thrilling, Satan, however, intended to keep the solution a secret. He then gave his master praise for all the things he had obtained. Dex plans to sell these ores and earn some money by doing this every day. To strengthen his bond with the miners in the city, he plans to sell this to each and every one of them. It is inevitable that the Baroness will become interested if you maintain this positive relationship with the miners. This is his true objective. Mikhail continued to be occupied with these meetings in the interim. The miners had begun to send her a lot of letters and concerns. They were all requesting her help. But at this point, there's not really much this woman can do. They deduced that the issue stemmed from the unexpected surge of players entering their city, all of whom were opting for the blacksmith's career advancement. Since none of these players had experience as blacksmiths, more iron ores were needed for those who wished to advance to the artisan or master level. Because the players felt that this quest was so difficult, the number of people mining iron ores did not increase to meet the demand for them. They even looked into their policies to see if they could make everyone mine some ores, minimum. Now that issues were pelting them, it appeared as though there was no turning back. That is, until this guard suddenly entered. He had some news for the Baroness. This mountain of iron ores was outside the mansion. When they saw that these were all premium rowing, everyone who saw it wanted to buy some. When the Baroness emerged, she was taken aback by what she saw. Our hero, in the meantime, was simply lounging around and waiting for something to happen. He made about 5 gold and 12 silver from the quantity of ores he had sold to the miners. After calculating his earnings, he found that they came to 512,000, or nearly $400. It was his belief that the profit would cover his tuition, rent, and capsule expenses. Dex was aware that there was still more he could do to increase his income, and as he continued to think, he heard someone speaking to him. The source was Mikhail. This moment, the Baroness of this city stood before Dex. Our hero was informed by the system that the Baroness has already shown more interest in and favorability toward him. As soon as Dex recognized this person, he grinned. Due to the quantity of ores that he sold to the miners, the Baroness greeted him and then asked him to have a cup of tea. Our hero had to choose whether to accept this offer or not. This was a mention of Mikhail Barney, and Mikhail and Dex were inside. Right now, they were having their tea party. Our hero commented on how good the tea tasted and learned that this was one of the city's specialties. She then discussed the primary reason for holding this meeting. How many days did Dex need to mine all those ores, she inquired. When she asked, Dex told her the truth, 3 days. The Baroness was taken aback by this since it didn't seem possible. Then she learned that the other adventurers couldn't accomplish this and that Dex was the only one who could. She came to this conclusion because iron ores were difficult to mine. Afterwards, she asked Dex if he could assist her. Mikhail clarified that the arrival of all the players in their city caused their economy to begin to falter. After receiving the request, the system informed Dex about the unique quest that had surfaced. He'll need to mine about 100,000 iron ores for this one, and he has already received 32,140 so far. X was happy that he had gotten the special quest at last. After completing the quest's requirements, he gave the Baroness his word that he could help her with this issue. Our hero remained in front of his computer later that evening. He was researching and evaluating potential solutions for the Baroness's issue. He didn't believe that Arcadia would incorporate a true economic issue into the game. However, he eventually figured out how to get around this quest. The primary problem with this quest was that the players believed mining for ores was a really boring job, and Yi Young intended to start his own YouTube channel in order to alter their viewpoint. The daily life of a destroyer was his moniker. The following day at the middle school in Seoul, this child inquired as to whether his classmate would still be playing Arcadia today. Choi Hyun-taek, a 15-year-old, was the person wearing the blue jacket, and he had finished his time at Arcadia. He had already experienced some trauma from the game. On the first day of his login, his classmate discovered that Hyun-taek had been killed by the inexperienced killer, and then those overpowered slimes killed him on the second day. And his bad luck didn't end there because the novice village was destroyed shortly after. He lost his life more than once attempting to get out of there, and after arriving at Mikhail Barney, he ran into yet another issue. He was compelled to learn more non-combat skills and turn into a merchant. This rendered his character meaningless as he is unable to hunt even a single monster by himself. At the moment, this one was very disheartened, but then he received a message from a classmate. Hyun-taek came upon a widow who was involved in mining in the Arctic. The widow has received 540,000 views thus far. The goal was to generate revenue within the game. The widow began from the viewpoint of the creator, that he was in the mines. When he introduced the location, he was aware that many people were already familiar with it. These two kept observing and learned about mining. The creator showed how much gold he made by performing this task, even though he knew that all of his viewers would believe that it was just harder work. Hyun-taek was taken aback by this since he hadn't anticipated anything similar. The creator then began to describe the steps involved in the process. He also provided some examples of computations. He made the observation that they must first raise their mining rank in order to actually make money, and after that, the uncommon ores will begin to appear, and they may begin to become wealthy. In addition, the creator revealed to them his mining rank and that he extracts at least one magic crystal every day. Hyun-taek was immediately captivated by this concept since, up until now, nobody had given this job much thought. The widow did not go through the mining process. The story continued to the point where the inventor sold all of his rowing equipment. He even encouraged players to have positive interactions with the NPCs. He demonstrated that he had 1 gold and 82 silver in a single day. This child was in serious trouble. The sparkles in his eyes let us know it. He was already considering adopting this tactic himself. This video, which came from the Daily Life of a Destroyer YouTube channel, became the most popular post of the day. The channel's name was a perfect fit. The reason its content is that it contained numerous lies. The only way the creator, RMC, was able to obtain those ores was because of the cheat item he was utilizing. He deliberately omitted these details in order to mislead his audience, and as a result of this action, many people developed an interest in mining. Every player in the city was racing to purchase pickaxes so they could deal with the mines. Suddenly, a long line of people was forming to mine iron ores. This development was driving the Baroness insane. She was surprised by how quickly so many people entered the mines. This woman and Dex were now meeting. She inquired as to how he accomplished this. Mikhail discovered that Dex aroused human primal desires, and RMC informed her that money was the main factor. As long as something can bring in money, people will gravitate toward it. This NPC was perplexed by this concept. However, as long as her issue is resolved, she really doesn't care about the things she doesn't understand. Dex informed her that they were still working on their plan. Then he proposed that Mikhail give the miners a percentage of the amount of ores they were mining instead of paying them as much as they were now earning. This will encourage those who put in a lot of effort and weed out those who were just being lazy. This woman was beginning to grasp the essence of this. She consented right away. Dex discovered that the Baroness was completely ignorant of economic principles. Now, he's going to take advantage of this and teach her some lessons about the harsh realities of the contemporary economy. Since the iron ores were already selling for 20 bronze apiece, Mikhail inquired about the prices. She became even more perplexed when Dex told her to ignore it. The artisans' earnings were not significantly impacted, and those who truly need these iron ores will continue to purchase them. They refer to this as a price correction. It was intended for the iron ores to be priced in this range in order to increase their value, and those who continue to complain ought to mine it themselves. The teachings of Dex were beginning to corrupt this Baroness. Then, she made him an offer to become her Minister of Finance, promising to give him a large salary in exchange. Dex turned down this offer right away. His adventures were far from over. Dex had already taken care of the Baroness in some way. It's time for him to get his fair part now. Then, Mikhail inquired about X's true desires in return for the assistance he had provided. This was the ideal occasion our hero had been looking forward to. Then he held this piece of paper up to her. Dex informed her that his business proposal was contained in that piece of paper. The Baroness reviewed the proposal's contents. There were restrictions on how much money a person could make on their own, according to our hero. He then began to consider methods to go beyond these restrictions, and he discovered this answer. To rule over others was the goal. This woman was going to get some new knowledge about the economy. Dex was already aware that she would find this interesting. He disclosed that if she uses this business model in her city, he will allow her to keep 10% of the profits. The Holy Demonic Great War, which took place in the world of Arcadia thousands of years ago, was a conflict between angels and demons. These two formidable creatures represented both sides. They engaged in fierce combat. This continued for some time until one of them suffered serious injuries. Our MC's familiar, Satan, represented the demon race, while an angel brandishing a holy spear known as Muspelheim opposed him. Archangel Michael was the name of this angel, who stood in for heaven. Because of the weapon she used in their battle, Satan was at a significant disadvantage and lost badly. As it happens, Satan was dreaming about his former life. Now that it was in this vicinity, he believed he remembered that scene. This gave him access to a few more memories. While his master was busy wandering the street, he remained perched atop Dex's shoulders. Everyone in the vicinity developed a mining interest at this point. After that, Satan questioned his master about the business suggestion he had made to the Baroness. This is the verse that our hero gave to Satan. "You are free to come and go as you please, but you cannot leave." He was wearing this eerie face as he made this statement. He went on to explain the idea behind it. Actually, mining was not an easy task. An average player could get about 10 iron ores in a single hour. The den destroyer he received from his familiar was the source of the sporadic rare metals he encountered. That implied that this work was not very profitable. However, in his situation, he had some control over this game feature. Satan was intrigued by this as well. Dex will no longer be mining, but tickets for admission will be available instead. He intends to sell the right to enter the mines by means of the Baroness. Those without any money can pay this fee at a later time. However, by the time they realize this job wasn't worth it, it will be too late for them to quit. Satan then inquired about the cost of the tickets that his master would be selling, and since this was essentially a one-time event, Dex began to consider this. Satan was shocked to learn that each of these tickets would be worth 1 gold when he later disclosed this information. Even though he was ignorant of human money, he was aware that 1 gold piece was far too costly. However, because of the information he leaked, Dex was sure that players would fall for this con. This was the simplest way for him to become extremely wealthy. When Satan, the king of demons, learned of his master's dastardly scheme, he became very silent. Because he didn't really care if he got all of the players' money, he believed that Dex was actually a demon. This situation caused the familiar to once again idolize his master. They truly did fit perfectly. Then Satan spoke to his master. He informed Dex that they had to head somewhere significant. In addition, he assured his master that following him would result in nothing being lost. X got what he wanted and went with the flow. These two showed up in front of the massive door that led into the mines. Satan disclosed that this was the cause of his disappearance during his master's or mining activities. As soon as they arrived in this city, he trusted his gut. At last, he understood why this place held so much familiarity for him. Upon closely examining the door, Dex concluded that it had been abandoned for a very long time. However, since it has no rust or other imperfections, something seemed strange. Maybe there was some sort of magic cast on this door, Dex thought to himself. Satan requested that his master attempt to unlock the door, and RNC did as he suggested. He put his hands up against the door. Then, the system alerted him to the strong seal that had been placed on it and the fact that Dex had not fulfilled the conditions to break the seal. Then, the system recommended that Dex inform the Baroness about this. This discovery also taught him a new skill called relic excavation. When Dex revealed the seal to Satan, the latter became enraged. That was his master's primary motivation for coming in here. Our MC was still unaware of Satan's true intentions. He informed his familiar that he lacked the necessary abilities to unlock this door. Then, since his master was genuinely clueless, this guy tried to give him more hints. He finds it unbelievable that his master took so long to realize this. Satan made another attempt and questioned Dex about his level of power knowledge. Dex fought about plausibility and ultimately got this thing right. This power was not within Providence's purview. It gives the user complete control over his actions. The ability that came closest to being the world's creator was plausibility. Following all of these justifications, Satan now anticipated that Dex would be aware of his power. However, this man told him no, and after that, he made it more simple for him. He assured Dex that he was free to do anything or everything. After 10 more minutes, Dex discovered that plausibility was what allowed Satan and other transcendental beings to move around. Satan went on to say that although normally this power would just build up over time, it was insufficient. It would take him 500 years to obtain those, based on the amount Dex had given Satan. This guy then deduced the reason behind his familiar's intense desire for these points. He also realized that he could use plausibility to open this door. Dex knew that this still had a seal on it, so he asked Satan how he should handle it. The man then advised him to simply touch the door and consider opening it. Dex must, after all, learn to think like an absolute being. His only requirement was the will to accomplish it. When Dex attempted to open this door once more, a magic circle materialized. The door seal was responding to the RMC's plausibility already. He was prompted by the system to open the door, but doing so would cost him 15,000 points. Despite knowing that this amount was excessive, Dex decided to open the effing door because he had nothing else with which to spend it. His points were quickly consumed by this, but the seal was actually broken. Dex had found what was known as the unknown heavenly altar. Satan disclosed that the angel's lair was located behind this door. The high heaven stereo was another name for this location. More about this great war of the holy demonic. Arcadia served as the backdrop for this vicious and bloody conflict. Thousands of lives were impacted, and death struck the entire continent. The World Tree's existence was the only thing that allowed the weaker realms to endure, and it had remained rare throughout Arcadia even a millennium after this war ended. In the hopes that it won't happen again, the survivors of that war left a warning for future generations. An alert about the high stairs of heaven reached Arcadia's main database. The entire operations team was placed in an emergency mode as a result of this incident, which set off a legendary grade quest. It was intended that no one would find out about this quest for a long time, but now someone had broken the seal. Regarding this one, Kang Tai-hoon called a meeting immediately away. These are the expressions on the faces of all the prisoners present at the meeting. They haven't fully recovered from the stress they experienced previously. These workers believed they could unwind for a little while, but this was obviously untrue. Tai-hoon proceeded to update them on the events that transpired within Mount Fiend. The group examined and assessed the severity of the emergency. The fact that this was once Angel territory was only recently discovered by the director. Despite the fact that nobody in their branch knew this information, they were able to uncover some background on it. The first angels to descend from heaven arrived at Mount Fiend, which was formerly referred to as the entrance of the high heavens. It was intended for the ores surrounding the mountain to serve as barriers, concealing the entrance from prying eyes. This location was named the Hidden Holy Land by them. The director became more intrigued by the idea that there are a lot of unexplored storylines in Arcadia. The entire team examined every corrupted quest impacted by this development, and they believe they may have discovered something. Even though Kang Tai-hoon was still apprehensive to share this knowledge, it was already too late. He warned everyone that the second holy demonic great war could start with this newly found quest. The director considered all the headaches he was about to suffer after hearing this. Meanwhile, our MC was the one responsible for this issue. He remained astonished by this revelation. Satan was ecstatic to be able to exact his revenge on the angels at last. He recommended to his boss that they now go loot everything in this place. Dex moved in the direction of the object in the middle of the space. He questioned whether the treasure truly resided inside this object. When our MC attempted to touch it, these notifications reappeared. Someone who can understand ancient languages is needed for this one. Additionally, a holy energy entered Dex's body, speeding up the recovery of his MP and HP. He was also given a new quest named Hidden Ruins as a result. Dex began to suspect that there might be a very valuable item inside this thing, and Satan was bothering him even as he was still considering how to handle this. The system recommended that Dex go and inform the Baroness of this before opening the door. However, he can't do that right now because he already opened the door. He believed that this woman, who had no knowledge whatsoever of the workings of the economy, would be of no assistance to him. Dex also knew that since he opened this door using his plausibility, whatever he was doing right now might already be a crime. He wouldn't want anyone to know about this place. He then smiled as he decided to open the treasure box. This made this Demon King too happy, but more than 10 minutes later, these two were still struggling on opening this thing. It was really closed. These two were already catching their breaths because their strength was all drained down. Satan thought that if only he had more strength in him, this thing would be a piece of cake. He never thought that he would have such trouble opening a mere rock that didn't have any barrier or seal on it. And this statement from his familiar gave Dex an idea. He then confirmed if there was really a treasure inside this thing. And since he got the answer he wanted, our hero prepared himself. This guy just equipped his den destroyer again. Satan was now confused about his master's actions, but since they didn't have any clue how to open this treasure box, Dex opted to just destroy it. He started drilling into the treasure box and it was effective. Cracks appeared. Satan thought that this was real proof that humans were way worse than demons, and after a while, the treasure box was opened. It gave Dex an extraordinary achievement. The beings from the heavens were also shocked by what Dex had done, and it made his affinity towards them hit the rock bottom. This guy was now forbidden to show his face towards the holy beings. He also gained a title called Relic Destroyer, but it all seemed to be worth it by the looks of our hero. But Dex was confused as he saw the thing that was inside the treasure box. It was just an effing skeleton. Our hero was starting to feel bad because the one that he destroyed was not a treasure box but a sarcophagus. He blamed this thing on Satan. But since it was already done, Dex thought that they should still take something from it. Satan advised his master that all they needed to do was take the skeleton's necklace. This one had an enigmatic glow surrounding it. Satan was aware that this necklace contained a holy object that angels were storing for a special occasion, and he reasoned that the plans of the holy beings would be foiled if his evil master managed to obtain that. He used this as a means of retaliation against the angels who had defeated him. Our hero, Dex, had acquired the Medallion of Glorious Heaven, another significant relic. Holy energy responded to him immediately after he received it. The force was overwhelming, and Satan was being destroyed. Meanwhile, Dex sensed a rush of energy coursing through his body. He was experiencing something. The medallion's unique power had been applied to Dex. He also obtained access to the Holy Prophet hidden class. Our MC's new job went against the rules of his current class, the Bard of Anarchy. The medallion's effects were momentarily disabled by the system, which also issued a number of warnings. Dex was able to locate 2 medallions that granted him access to various hidden classes. The amount of holy energy that thing released nearly killed Satan. He then inquired of his master about what had transpired, but Dex was likewise in the dark. This was one mysterious item. Its description was absent as well. However, the game had already started looking into this deadly mistake. Dex felt that he had overcomplicated the situation and hoped that the game would address this. Meanwhile, close to the location of Mikhail Bear mining, when the guard stopped this child, he became confused. The guard went on to inform him of the new rules pertaining to the mines. Before they could have mined, everyone ought to have passed. The unluckiest player in Arcadia, Wentach, was unaware of this. He thought back to the widow he had seen and argued that perhaps things had changed. The guard disclosed that in order for players to enter this area, they had to pay. Unwillingly, the child inquired about the cost of the said pass, and this was his reaction the moment he learned that it would cost 30 gold. This pass would equate to 1 gold per day as it was already valid for the following 30 days. 1 gold was already worth $77 or 100,000 won. Furthermore, a middle school student could not possibly afford this cost. His hopes of making a fortune through mining were now dashed. However, this guard offered him an alternative, and this child would readily fall for this trap because he was already in a desperate attempt to make money. The player who couldn't afford the pass was the target audience for the program, which the guard began to explain. Wentach was informed by him that it was more like pay later by now. The guard also indicated to him where he could find out more details about the program in question. This woman right here was also in charge of the consultation office. This was more than enough to draw this young person in this instance. They got another one, and that made him feel a little bad. This kid was going to grow up to be a mining scammer. Not too long ago, there was hardly any labor at this mining site, but as of right now, it was nearly These were the players who were duped by Dex. They could hear their shouts even from outside the mining site. This woman was quite impressed with the newly installed system. She finds it unbelievable that someone could be duped by this scheme. However, she was aware that this idea was not the Baroness's since it was too evil. She only knew that the person who had proposed this plan was extremely vicious. Dex completed the quest regarding the 100,000 iron ores he needed to mine even without exerting any effort. This resulted from the players' collective contributions. He then instructed Satan to bring everything to a close right here. This familiar was perplexed because his master had even performed some stretches. Even though Satan still doesn't know, he sensed something sinister about this. Dex then informed him of the actions they had taken, which may result in punishment for RNC, and nobody should be aware of the crime scene in order to conceal all of these crimes. Satan continued to defy his master's orders. Nevertheless, Dex outfitted the Den Destroyer once more. He informed Satan that all he had to do was destroy all the proof. This one was perspiring already from Dex's schemes. With a smile, our MC assured him that he would destroy this place, and he proceeded to carry it out. This millennium-old archaeological site began to collapse. Even after he destroyed the place, he had this glowing surrounding him. Satan reasoned that since he still had a lot to learn from people, he ought to start making notes from them. Returning to the Mikhail mansion, The Baroness was ecstatic to see our MC since she had been anticipating his visit. She stated that they were now bursting at the seams with miners after Dex's plan proved successful. After that, she thanked our MC. She was also salivating because, upon hearing the ticket price, many players fell prey to their trap on a particular track. Approximately 9,693 players have signed up as of right now. In addition to the transaction fees of 30% that they already charged, she also needed to buy all of the ores. Mikhail was genuinely enthralled with our MC's methodology. Additionally, Dex began to feel that this woman was becoming more insane each time they saw one another. He is now afraid for the players who were forced to work for her. Dex truly smashed this one. He also informed the Baroness of the honor he was going to be bestowed with. Mikhail moved fast to inform Dex that she had already ready this for him. This represented a 10% profit on their business venture. Our MC did nothing but gain 120 gold and 23 silver. Mikhail also came up to our MC and asked directly if he could collaborate with her on this. She'll give Dex all the power he desires and treat him equally. An appearance of a system notification confirmed that this proposal was genuine. Dex was contemplating it already. This offer was too good to resist. The creation of the massively expansive game Arcadia was attributed to just one person. This man was Jack, the man who created Arcadia. He is currently in contact with Alice, the game's administrator. It's been a while since they've spoken, so he welcomed this AI. Alice stated that there were numerous fatal inconsistencies in the game, and there is one particular incident that she is unable to solve. She wants him to investigate and determine the best course of action. Jack thought it was interesting as soon as he could see what had happened. He witnessed the Bard of Anarchy, the hidden class. This was an aspect of the game that not even he knew about. He believed that a true disruptor had broken into his world. It was all due to this enigmatic man, and the disruptor in question now also possesses the Heaven's Medallion. This was a weapon meant exclusively for the Holy Demonic Great War's protagonist. The two most significant relics belonging to the two races have been obtained by this player. Jack was happy to see things like this occurring in his world. But now that it was impossible to elevate Dex to the status of Holy Prophet at this moment, Alice was asking this man what they should do. The creator informed Alice that there was not much significance in the advancement of the hijab. Giving Dex his prize was all that was required. Jack told Alice that they would only be altering the characteristics of the item that Dex received. Given that Dex had already upset his Arcadia, it was his responsibility as the creator to restore equilibrium. He informed Alice that Michael would now be handling this assignment. Returning to our MC, the system continued to question him regarding his choice regarding the Baroness proposal, but he later turned this one down. Mikhail was taken aback because she had assumed that her terms would suffice. Dex informed her that he was an explorer and that he still had plans to explore the continent. After his travels are over, he will give this some more thought. He had the unspoken feeling that he should stop interacting with her. The Baroness was overjoyed to hear the news. She gave this letter to Dex as well. She personally penned this letter of recommendation. Dex will now have protection everywhere in this kingdom as a result. The letter of recommendation was given to Dex as his quest reward. However, he questioned why he would require security. Mikhail went on to say that this kingdom was in a terrible state right now, and if Dex truly plans to cross the continent, he will require a letter similar to this one. Our MC was unaware of this circumstance and believed that speaking with NPCs would be the only way to get this information. She clarified that the prince will have to take the throne because the current king is too old. However, this prince's youth was the issue, and as a result, those who had been angling for more authority were beginning to take advantage of this prince. But this duke by the name of Bayan was the worst of these men. He presented himself as the head of the noble faction and revealed that he was really the king's puppet. In addition, this man was starting hostilities with nearby nations in order to obtain substantial war profits. Mikhail was certain that if that occurs, this nation will suffer far too much. Dex wanted to keep his distance from this issue because he felt it was too bothersome. The Baroness went on to say that the letter of recommendation she had given to Dex was focused on how he handled the issues in her city, and the Imperial Palace will undoubtedly treat Dex with great respect if he gives them this. Now that Dex knew, the Baroness wanted him to assist with this issue. This made our MC's quest for the Maroon Kingdom official. He must go and make a contribution to the kingdom while searching for the main character who has the power to alter this place's destiny. He realized that since he was left with no other options, he had to complete this quest. Dex assured the Baroness that he would try his hardest, despite his anger. This only increased the lady's admiration for Dex. Following that meeting, Dex and Mikhail bid each other farewell. Our MC was assured by this waifu that she would simply wait for him here and that he was welcome to arrive at any time. Dex gave a final wave. He was aware that he had developed a problematic relationship with the Baroness. This woman was now confident in her emotions. She was aware that this journey held the key to reshaping the world. Given that Dex had already made numerous contributions that altered the Arcadian world, this idea made a lot of sense, and both those inside and outside the game have been impacted by these changes. The destinies of the humans and even the monsters in his immediate vicinity were drastically altered. Even to these fortunate ones, Arcadia is a world designed exclusively with the players in mind, and the only player who was actually following the game's original design was this guy. The quantity of trolling he committed during this game will have no bearing on what he was going to do the next time. Satan was now questioning his master about his level of certainty about entering the political sphere, but Dex was stuck with this outcome because it wasn't going any other way. Even so, he would make sure to do these things in order to gain greater credibility, and a dazzling beam of light suddenly emerged. Our MC